And we are live for the Steelers Depot live stream here on Monday, January 10th. Thank you guys for being here, Steelers Nation, in a jam-packed show today, Q&A. I am sure of it. A lot to talk about, of course, coming off just a bonkers Week 18 with the Steelers game, the Jags game, and the wrap things up Sunday Night Football, the Raiders and Chargers game, which was just I don't even know where to begin with half of our thoughts about this game. But Dave Bryan, as always, is joining me. Dave, how you doing?
I'm good if I don't strangle myself with my glasses here. But other
Okay.
than that, I'm doing well. I'm rested. I'm getting ready to hop into some all 22 tape from the game. So the national championship game tonight. So I think it's Steelers in the playoffs. So I think it's a good Monday to be alive.
And you're taking Georgia tonight, right?
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
laying the 2.5 points. I've got a good feeling about that. I think they learned some lessons that last time around there. So I think everybody should take the opportunity of me helping you get some free money tonight.
I don't know. Two coaches I do not bet against: Belichick and Saban. I'm taking Bama, but we'll see what
All
happens.
right.
All right, you guys know the drill here. If you've been here before, Dave and I here for an hour. We may cut out a couple minutes early to get ready for the national title game, but answering as many Steelers questions as possible. As you see on screen, Steelers playing Super wild card weekend Sunday night against the Chiefs on NBC 8:15 kickoff. So you guys ask your questions in the chat. I already see a bunch in there because there may be so many questions in the chat today. If you want to have your question be asked and answered immediately and be guaranteed to be asked and answered, send Dave and I a super chat. No obligation, of course, to do so, but that will get you to the front of the line. But Dave, let's start here and go through as many questions as possible. Noah Baker asking one: Hey guys, happy Victory Monday. Have you recovered from that game last night? Who knew a tie would be so stressful? Yeah, I don't know if I fully recovered yet. I mean, that was just impossible circumstances. And Dave, as you referenced on the podcast today, the roller coaster of emotions from going into Sunday, they're probably not going to make the playoffs, to they might, or they might lose the game and Jacksonville's going to win, to, oh my goodness, Jacksonville lost and Pittsburgh won. They're going to make the playoffs, to the Sunday night game where it just, went bonkers from there. And so it just, there's not been a weekend or a day like it.
Yeah, boy, you woke up thinking one thing. You you went back and forth all day. So they're not going to get in. Okay, maybe they'll get in. No, they're not going to get in. They're definitely not going to get in. Oh no, they're not going to get in. Oh my God, they got in. So the Steelers, I think, tweeted out a graphic not too long after the game ended saying clinched, and boy, they weren't kidding. I stayed clinched most most of the night there for sure. So what a range of emotions. I mean, waking up and obviously going through the Steelers game and not looking good in the Steelers game for a little bit there, and then looking okay, and then you kind of want to get into overtime. Anything can obviously happen, and what a wacky Sunday that I don't think many Steeler fans will soon forget.
Yeah, that much is definitely true. Next question comes from our buddy Mike Adesso. Says, Hi guys, happy playoffs week. Random, and in no way am I saying this will be a factor in who will be the next GM, but if the Steelers promote Hunt or Khan with new rule, wouldn't that net them 2 third-round picks? Is that applicable for
Outside.
internal? Yeah, that's outside if you hire somebody from the outside. I don't believe that's an internal hire you get credit for, correct?
No, no,
Okay, so
it's outside. Yeah.
that would not factor in, but in terms of the future GM, I think all signs have pointed to for quite some time, and especially with yesterday's report, that the next GM will be either Brandon Hunt or Omar Khan. It seems very likely it'll be an internal move for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine it being either one of those two, and people can research the podcast and the Twitter machine. You and I have talked and tweeted about it quite a bit, for a while now, and especially I think you go back 2000 was it 20 the first time that Colbert mentioned that he's kind of year to year and all like that. So I think the speculation has been for a while that potentially there's a chance that as Ben Roethlisberger goes out the door, Kevin Colbert might go with him. You and I obviously had a longer conversation on the podcast this morning, and the most interesting thing is if indeed Colbert does leave, will it be right after the season? You would
Mm-hmm.
think that there'd be some finality to that instead of letting him go through the draft and having a heavy hand in a draft and then throwing up peace signs and walking out the door that way there. So I would imagine we'd get a little bit of clarity on it, not too terribly long after the season ends, and probably by the time the bat signal goes up for Art Rooney II when he holds his annual kind of year-end recap press conference there. I would hope that we would know by then.
Yeah, I would expect that whatever the future is to be known within a couple of weeks with the Senior Bowl and Shrine Game coming up here about that first week of February. That would be the expectation. But I know Colbert was an outside hire, so it wouldn't be uncommon for the team to go outside, but just based on the reporting and the track and the guys and Con and Hunt, it seems to be an internal option. Mr. Yaya says other YouTubers acting like we have a chance to beat KC. I'm here because Alex is a realist. Listen, they have a chance. You just saw what happened yesterday. I mean, Jacksonville upsetting the Colts, and obviously Pittsburgh will be big underdogs, and rightfully so. I think the line is 13 points right now. You just posted a little bit ago, Dave. But I'm not saying there is no chance. It's going to be an uphill climb for sure. And will I pick Pittsburgh to win this game Sunday? Probably not. But there's always a chance, and I think yesterday was proof positive of those chances.
Man, just look around the landscape of the NFL this year and how parity has kind of played a role in that. Man, you've had some huge underdogs win some games, and then just look back to yesterday, to Sunday, and that Jaguars game, and how they were able to kind of pull off the unthinkable, if you will. I'm with you. Look, I mean, it would take a heavy hit, I think, to the Chiefs' COVID list or whatnot here for me to probably ultimately pick the Steelers to win this game.
Mm-hmm.
But with that said, I posted the adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat. Normally, I'm on that, but I guess maybe because it wasn't looking good for the Steelers, the last couple weeks, and obviously the chances of them making the playoffs were low. I didn't have that kind of stuff ready, but I went back and compiled it later today here. And if you look at the adjusted net yards per passing attempt differential stats and the offense and the defense stats here, the Steelers will enter the playoffs of all the of the 12 or the 14 playoff teams.
Mm-hmm.
They will have the lowest offensive adjusted net yards per passing attempt number. However, as I like to say, the Chiefs will enter the playoffs with the highest defensive adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat number there. So, is there going to be a happy medium in there? Obviously, the Steelers did not play well at all. The Chiefs jumped all over them in that last game, so they will have to make a lot of changes. You have to find a way to get some pressure, 4-man pressure on Patrick Mahomes, or 5-man pressure. And if you do, you better look out on the back end there. So it would obviously take a Herculean type effort to beat them, but we don't know what the weather's going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so many factors that could potentially play a part in this game. What's the COVID list going to look like? We know how quickly that can change. So, yeah, I mean, it's obvious why the Steelers are, I think it's lower down to 12.5 points now, but it's quite obvious why they're going to be a huge underdog in this game. But with that said, we have anything can happen, as we've seen in the landscape of the NFL this year. So I do think you better have a good reason, I think, to pick the Steelers to win this game, other than just being a fan of the team.
Sure, I do think it is tough for teams to beat an opponent twice in one season, and Pittsburgh will be the team more likely to make adjustments because they made more mistakes in that first matchup. And as you said, Pittsburgh will be the loose team because they're playing with house money. I mean, there's no, they lose this game, it's like, yeah, you kind of figured that was going to happen. So I mean, the Chiefs are the ones that have all the pressure on them right now, and so Todd is saying the Chiefs will be overconfident with a question mark. I don't think that'll be the case. Andy Reid's teams are too well coached for the team to be in a position to be overconfident, but I'm sure they're going to feel the pressure of this game if it gets a little bit tight in the beginning, more so than what Pittsburgh will.
Yeah, I would think. I don't know. Do you want a clear night? Do you want snow? Do you want rainy conditions? I don't know. But there are so many factors that could potentially happen here. Look, Tyreek Hill probably not going to be 100%, but the Chiefs didn't have Travis Kelce last time, so that would be an extra. Even if the Chiefs do have Tyreek Hill, it sounds like he's going to play. They did a good job of keeping him in check that last time.
Yeah.
The problem is is those other wide receivers, hurt them, and they had the complement of those two running backs that did a good job in that game. We know the Steelers have had problems against the run this year on top of it there. So yeah, I mean, it goes without saying that the Chiefs are going to be heavy favorites in this game, and they should be.
Yeah, again, no Kelsey in that first matchup, so that'll be a big boost for the Chiefs. The second time around, it was Byron Pringle that had the 2 touchdowns against them Week 16, and so they, when they have Mahomes a quarterback, I mean, anything is possible. They can do anything, in theory. John Pennington, hello, Dave and Alex. Hope you guys survived the game last night. We did. We're here for you guys. Do you think Waitman should be doing the punting, and who will be making the decision on the draft picks? I'm not sure what the latter question means on the decision on the draft picks, if that's a Colbert retiring kind of question, but with the punter, I think it should be Waitman. He's been proven to be the guy. Harvin has struggled. He struggled yesterday and in a must-win game, playoff atmosphere. I know Waitman's body of work is pretty small and limited, but I think you have to go with Waitman at this point.
Yeah, look, you're going to have some interesting decisions, and once again, you don't know the way the COVID list is going to go this week. Who would have known that we'd been into this season, wondering, man, how's the COVID situation going to impact this, and can they get guys back in 24 or 48 hours,
Right.
that kind of thing. Obviously, the team I would think would hope to have James Washington back this week. We talked on the podcast earlier today. This team's going to have to make a decision, I think, by Tuesday or Wednesday of what to do with Kevin Dotson, because his 21-day window is coming to a close. So if he gets activated to the 53, somebody's going to have to go. And we talked about a guy like T. Gray Scales. What's going to happen there? And once again, we don't know how the COVID list is going to play this out. Once again, with this, but when you look back at the punter position specifically, you had two good games in a row with Waitman, and correct me if I'm wrong, Waitman is familiar with the atmosphere up there or with the surroundings of KC. So outside it being the pressures of a playoff game, he was just up there punting for the team a couple of weeks ago. So it's not going to be like, oh man, having to worry about the kid with the nerves of his first game and hostile stadium and Arrowhead, those kind of things. So that's something else maybe to consider, that's a plus in Waitman's camp right now is that aspect. And that might be, that, and obviously Harvin not having a good game the other day against Baltimore. That would probably be another factor into leading into decision of Waitman possibly being your punter.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. We'll see what happens. I would go Waitman. I think they'll go Waitman, but I'm not going to guarantee it because they went back to Harvin, and we'll just have to wait and see. Got a question here from John Horvat. Says, who do you guys think is the most underrated player on the Steelers? My pick is Zach Gentry. My reasoning for Gentry, by the way, is because he doesn't seem to make many mistakes and seems to be reliable. It's a good question. I'll let you answer first here, Dave. Who's the most underrated player on the Steelers?
Oh, wow. Coming out of that game against Baltimore right now, I can't believe I might be saying it, but it might be Ray McLeod. I mean, he's made a couple of pretty big catches here the last couple of weeks, and we've talked about the physicality of him, and he's tiny, but he's not afraid to block, and he's had a couple of good blocks. I would think on the offensive side of football, that might be my choice. And granted, I mean, me, I kind of question whether or not this guy should potentially even be on the roster, but he did make a couple nice kickoff returns the other day, and so what was his punt return average? What did we say it was? 14?
Yeah, had one real good one, put him in midfield.
Yeah, something like that. So and look, I mean, Gentry obviously plays in that well too. Who had Gentry as leading the team in receiving on their bingo card? In that game there. But I think play for play, and as much as Ray McLeod's on the field, at least in this last 3 or 4 games, I would have to probably surprisingly probably choose Ray McLeod.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I think Gentry's kind of the one I've talked about for a good chunk of the season. Defensively, Chris Wormley's had a really underrated year replacing Stephon Tuitt. Obviously can't replace the highs and the upper echelon impact plays Tuitt's capable of making, but 6 sacks for Wormley. Good run defense, which is surprising to say for historically bad Pittsburgh Steelers run defense unit, but the problems obviously ran a lot deeper than Wormley or just one guy. But I thought Chris Wormley in that full-time role as a starter for the first time in his NFL career. Played really well in places to punt to it. Next question comes from Fat Larry. Fat Larry says, "Is Ben Roethlisberger a top 10 Steeler of all time?" Dave, you and I did a top 100 list about 4 or 5 years ago. I
Oh
think Ben
Lord.
was right around the top 10 in our list. So maybe I can pull that up here and see where we had him ranked. But yeah, I think I don't have the list in front of me right now, or an updated list. But yeah, I think top 10 for Ben fairly easily.
Yeah, I don't see how he's not, top 10.
Let's see if I can find where we had him before. There's going to be a lot of other stuff here. I got to try to think about where to.
I mean, franchise quarterback for one. I mean, that's good for something. I mean,
Yeah,
18 years. I mean, and 2 Super Bowls, been to 3 Super Bowls. Uh, just the bevy of play. People will all people look at him now and time gets away. But I've posted throughout the last couple of weeks kind of that highlights clip of him when he was in the heyday, Mr. Extended Play, man. When that'll be one of the main reasons that among many that will help get him into the Pro Football Hall of Fame is just the way. I mean, that guy was. A beast to try to get on the ground. Nobody could extend a play like him during a section of years there in the NFL.
yeah. And looking at this is our list. These are our individual list. It was a collective one that you and I agreed upon. These are just our individual list that we came up with back in 2016. I had Ben
Wow.
seven overall behind Franco, Webster, Swan, Blunt, Lambert, and Green. Now I'd probably put Ben ahead of Franco, Swan, probably Webster. I think Ben would be in top five, maybe higher than that. And let's see where Dave, I don't know where you had him at, probably similar. Five. You had Ben at five behind Webster,
Okay.
Lambert, Bradshaw, and Green. Is Ben still behind Bradshaw, in your opinion? I mean, that's a big question I'm asking here, but what do you think?
No, I think you can make an argument that Ben should be ahead of Bradshaw. I mean, boy, 2016. How many years ago
I
is that?
know.
Five
Coming up
years
on
ago. I mean,
six?
yeah, six years ago and all. I think it's fair. I mean, people will say, well, look at the championships. You can't do it because of championships.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the game obviously was a little bit different or a lot different back then than it is now. They would still be close together, but I think you can make a strong argument that Ben should be ahead of Bradshaw if you're going to look at outside of championships and championships alone.
Yeah, in my list, I had Bradshaw at 10, Ben at 7. So I had Ben ahead and obviously still remain that way. But that's a fun question, fun little look back there. Maybe we'll do a revised one this year because there's been a lot of changes over the last almost 6 years. Got a super chat here. I want to address this right away from AZ. Thank you for the super chat. $5 says, "What do the Steelers need to do to get a win against the Chiefs? How can the offense be more explosive?" Love the content, guys. Keep it up. Nothing really magical or mystical. It's limiting the big plays. To me, it's a turnover battle. Pittsburgh turned the ball over 3 times against KC. Their margin for error this entire season has been incredibly small. So I know it's a very obvious stat. It's applicable for any game, but I think even more so for this team and for this particular matchup, you could not give KC and Mahomes extra possessions and short fields and those kinds of things. And so it's again very obvious to say, but to me, it is the number one stat to look for in this game.
Yeah, yeah. I'll go even more obvious than that, and make myself sound really smart here. You have to outscore them, and
Okay, I thought maybe you were going to do that. I didn't know if you're going to hit me with something different, but I respect
no,
it.
no. But in all reality, I mean, you got to keep the score down on them.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot to ask this team to do kind of what it did in Minnesota several weeks ago, and even though we did talk about that, this Chiefs defense, the adjusted net yards per passing attempt number is up there. They've got some talented people on. Unless you're able to attack Sorensen, Daniel Sorensen, 25 times a game, but they're gonna make sure that you might get them for a big play here and there, but I'm trying to be funny there, obviously, but you do have to keep the score down on them. I just can't imagine this Steelers team going in to Arrowhead and attempting to win the game like 34
Yeah.
to 31
Yeah.
or something along those lines. Because look, Mike Tomlin hasn't been shy about it when he talked to the media yesterday either. This team has warts. Their warts have warts. I mean that's I was trying to explain to my wife that it just man, this team is just. I mean, we watch this film every week, and they're so bad. I mean, yeah, unless they can keep it close in games in the fourth quarter, it's really been their only saving grace throughout this thing is to put it into a 7-minute game,
Hmm.
if you will. That's what it's going to take for them to beat the Chiefs, is to get the thing boiled down to like a 6 or 7 minute game. That's it.
Yeah.
That's how they're going to win the game, is to get it boiled down to 6 or 7 minute game.
In just a couple of words to answer the second part of that question, how do you think this offense can get more explosive plays against the Chiefs?
I don't have an answer for that,
I
man.
don't
I
either.
mean,
That's why I asked it instead.
I honestly don't. I mean, unless you try to get, and you're afraid of them getting too super creative
Hmm.
and having those flea flicker and stuff that gets rushed and
Yeah.
stuff that you know uh we haven't seen that damn wheel route to to Watt this year. It'd be a great time to try to pull something like that. Look, I mean, for all that they were able to do and not do against the Ravens again, all they had was two explosive plays in that game.
Hmm.
Uh, they You remember the days of them getting 6 and 7 explosive plays a game?
Yeah.
I don't. I think that's a little much to ask, but uh, and the whole you're going to have probably a catch short run long situation, and Deontay Johnson's been able to provide a few of those this year. So that's one way that they'll have to deliver probably an explosive play. Another one would probably be something against a cover one man type situation down the sideline where Chase Claypool makes one of those falling away catches that way. That's another one.
Hmm.
Maybe you can get Najee to bounce something to the outside on some sort of pin and pull or something along those lines. So that's three. I mean, uh, now I'm trying to stretch.
Yeah.
Do you really want Ben Roethlisberger to try to make a concerted effort to throw down the middle of the field, something that's not a specialty of his? Look, he got away with a couple of picks again again in the game against Baltimore as
Hmm.
well too. So uh, that's the question. And they're probably going to need about at least 3 or 4 explosive plays against the Chiefs, if not more, to win that game.
It's a very difficult question to answer.
No,
As,
and it's difficult because of what we know, what we've seen this offense
mhm.
do game in and game out.
Right. Yeah. As James Bates says, the Chiefs play a lot of too high. They'll probably do the same this game. And so that eliminates the chance for big plays because Pittsburgh will take the vertical shots against cover one when they get man coverage, ISO coverage on the outside, and just throw away from where the safety's shaded or running to.
Then you
Um,
better be able to run against the front,
yeah,
and
you
good luck
will.
with that.
And get some explosive runs, which they'll need to do. To your point, I usually am anti-trick play because I want the ball in the hands of my quarterback and the guys who are paid to do the job they're paid to do. But do you try something? I mean, the flea flicker worked poorly. The one
A
try
double
one.
pass or
Yeah,
something. I don't
nothing
know.
to lose. I mean, if you want a big play, I don't know who's gonna do it or what that's gonna look like. Deontay played some quarterback, I think, in high school, so maybe him. But maybe this is the week you just put it all on the table and go all Dan Campbell and try something crazy.
Yeah, look, I'm not opposed to it. Look, everybody expects you to lose this game and get blown out anyway.
Yeah.
Don't leave anything in the, especially stuff like those wheel routes and all, and the stuff to Watt and some of that stuff. And look, I mean, you go back to what was it, the rookie season of Ray and. You in that key. I don't know if I'd put one of those younger players in one of those key situations or throw into an offensive lineman eligible the way they did
Gerald Hawkins.
to Gerald Hawkins. There are
Trading draft capital for that. But I'm kind of taking the focus off of the quarterback position for the next week or two and just focusing and frankly enjoying this postseason run that's become a surprise.
I've been trying to tell people how this thing's going to play out, and already it's starting to come to fruition some. It really looks like Aaron Rodgers is going to stay put in Green Bay. It sounds like Russell Wilson's, going to stay put in Seattle. It sounds like Matt Ryan's willing to, wanting to stay put in Atlanta, and those have been kind of the three big names. I know people brought up Kirk Cousins, but you know, do you really want to bite off a piece of that? You know,
Yeah, hold on one second, Dave. Is the stream okay? I got some stuff that the stream cut out. I don't have any drop things on my end. Are we okay right now? Let me know in the chat, and we'll continue. I apologize for that. I don't know if that's a YouTube thing. I don't have a single drop frame. Dave, can everyone hear Dave? Dave, go ahead and just kind of continue
test,
your answer.
test. Everybody hear me?
Everyone's saying it's good now. So, okay. I think, I'm sorry, Dave. You can go ahead and continue with your answer.
I just am not convinced that if they do go out and get a quarterback, and look, why would you trade something for a Minshew of anything of value? I mean, if you could get him for like a 6th or a 7th or whatever, that's one thing to come in and compete. But unless you're going to bring Minshew in and run the air raid, I just don't see why you'd want to do that. He's an intriguing guy, but how many intriguing guys were there this past off season that didn't turn out to much of anything?
Sure.
Even Wentz ended up flaming out on the Colts there at the end. So if you're going to do something, as much as Mike Thomas talked about mobility, you would think it would be a quarterback that A, has pedigree, because Kevin Colbert loves that pedigree, and B, it would be a quarterback with some more level of mobility than, say, what a Mason Rudolph would give you. So I will be shocked if it's a Rodgers, a Ryan, a Wilson, a trading for a Cousins or a Minshew along those lines. I mean, it's fun to talk about. It gets clicks, those kind of things there. But it's kind of thing also I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, I would only trade for an elite quarterback like Derek Carr, who's not an elite quarterback, but like he'd be the lowest quarterback talent wise that I would consider trading for. I wouldn't trade for Garoppolo, Minshew, even Matt Ryan, any of those guys. But yeah, I think they'll bring it up.
Derek Carr too. He's another one that you would think. Why would the two want to separate? Uh, is Derek Carr capable of winning a Super Bowl?
I think with some complementary pieces around him, he's not at the Brady, Rogers, Mahomes, will it on your own thing, but he's a tier below that.
All right. Well, if he is, then why wouldn't you build around him if you're the Raiders?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's been some rumors with a new coaching staff. I mean, who knows what could happen there? If he's available, I would consider it. I don't know if he's going to be or not. All right, next question here, and this is a schedule question. I'm going to kind of go through some of these fairly quickly here, about a half hour left. Alan says, let me scroll up and find it. Alan Balamo says, how do they decide, this is referring to the schedule, how do they decide on which games are home and which ones are away? We have home and home with the AFC North, but what about the other 4 home games? Dave, do you know how they decide the other 4 home games?
The rotating schedule?
Yeah, in regards to home and away games, so where you're playing those games at.
Yeah, I mean that works off of a rotating schedule type system.
Okay.
There where let me think here. Who do they play? They play the AFC North and what's the other division that they play? The South, the NFC South are the two main divisions I think they play in 2022, because that's on a rotating schedule. And obviously, as part of the rotating schedule, the last time that you rotate. So what'd you do the last time you played? Tampa Bay, I believe it rotates back and forth when you're playing a whole other division like that. So that a lot of that stuff's already easily mapped out. Before the games even ended, even when the season started this season, we knew how many is it? 13 or we knew 14 of the teams, 13 or 14 of the teams that the Steelers would be playing in 2022, just because of the rotating schedule aspect of it. The only thing that we didn't know is the other aspect of the rotating schedule is the AFC West this year, or 2022, would be the AFC West, the NFC South, and what was the other straggling team?
The East with
That
the
that
Eagles game?
was it the East? Yeah, it was the East. Was the other unknown there? Then those are decided by order of finish within the division.
Mm-hmm.
So because the Steelers finished second, they played the second place team in the NFC East, the AFC West, and the what I say the other one
You said the
was.
South?
No, the South, the NFC South, they play
Right.
anyway.
Oh, you said the South?
Uh, it was the Eagles. It was the AFC West, and I'm drawing the blank on what the other division is. And it's no, where was it? No, yeah,
The
it was the South. It was the AFC South. I'm sorry.
AFC South. Okay. I gotcha.
Right.
All right. So I don't know too much about the schedule making stuff and how the sausage gets made. So that's good information there. David O. Or
And obviously the 17th, the extra game, and I think part of that became where the home and away is at. I think 1 year you're home,
yeah,
one
5-4.
1 year away, as far as that part of the rotating aspect of it.
Right, right, or 8-9. I guess I don't know. I said 5-4, but yeah. Our own David O says, "Is there any discussion that Colbert may not be stepping down?" Yeah, there was a follow-up report from the initial report by NFL Network. This was a report from the PPG that said that Colbert has not told anyone this information. So I don't want to assume that he is retiring at any point this offseason. It is possible that he is the GM through the entirety of the 2022 season. We'll just have to wait and see. And again, I think we'll find out our answers sooner than later.
Yeah, I would think by the time Art Rooney holds his annual, you would think that's one of those things that he would be asked about, for sure. So I would like to think that maybe we'll know by then. We'll see.
Alan says if the Chargers Raiders game ended in a tie and it was obvious collusion, so both teams get in the playoffs, what could the league do about it? This is the whole taking a knee scenario. There are mechanisms Goodell has for some unfair acts clause that he could intervene in. I don't know exactly how it would work. I don't know if it's ever been enforced before, at least not in any modern recent history, but there are mechanisms to handle very unusual circumstances like that scenario hypothetically.
I mean, had they just sat there
Yeah,
and both
intentionally
teams
tied.
nailed
Yeah.
it out or whatnot? Uh, I mean, if you're going to go that far, couldn't you agree to a draw ahead of time or something along those lines? But look, nobody likes to think about that kind of stuff. I don't know how you feel about ties, Alex. I am a fan of not just playing until somebody wins the game because of the whole, you know, that's very hypocritical from a safety aspect of it. Maybe you adopt some sort of 2 point conversion thing, along the lines that the college football does, and at some point, I know those are extra plays involved in there. Maybe you do something like that, and along those lines. But I think there needs to be a better mechanism than a tie, I think.
I can live with ties because they are so infrequent. Once a season, generally speaking, at most. Although it almost happened twice last night on the season. But I would go back to 15 minutes. I didn't like them reducing from 15 to 10. I don't think player safety changes a whole lot in that scenario, but the rate and the chance of the tie does increase. I think by a decent margin when you're cutting, 5 minutes out of the overtime period. So I would just go back to 15. I wouldn't do all the 2 point conversion stuff. I don't like that. That kind of takes away from the game and how the game is played and won. But I would go back from 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, but I mean, from if you're putting 5 minutes back on the clock, good luck with the NFLPA on that.
Yeah, I'm just saying what I would do. I'm not. I mean, I don't have to negotiate here, but this is what I would do.
I think I would maybe see about, I don't know, going 10 minutes, and then I don't know, at that point there, you just want the game to end. So I would put it in the hands of some sort of 2 point conversion or
Mhm.
something along those lines.
Jonathan Mason Edmonds has been solid. Has he played his way out of Pittsburgh money wise? No, I don't think that. With the safety market kind of depressed right now, I think he's playing his way to maybe get re-signed, which was a surprising move. Whenever he thought he wouldn't come back after his fifth year option was declined. So no, I wouldn't say he's playing his way out of Pittsburgh financially. And you probably agree with that, Dave. I'm guessing.
Oh, with Edmonds?
Yeah.
No, I mean, look, I mean, the safety market's usually depressed anyway for that kind of position and all like that. Now, all it takes is one team, right? But uh, when you look at him, when you look at his overall value and what he's done, it's just going to boil down to pretty much, I think, the guaranteed money aspect with him. How much will it take to sign him?
Mm-hmm.
And because I think other teams would have him probably at a comparable value. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's so much of what he's worth. That's the question here. I think it's more an aspect of need. Teams needing the position, and B, uh, what's it going to take to sign him from a guaranteed money aspect there? And what does he want to go play for a Jacksonville or whoever? He
Mm-hmm.
might be comfortable, staying in Pittsburgh and knowing the surroundings, and maybe that would cause it. But look, you got, if you get if you get to take a second bite of the apple like this and hit free agency, you got to look out for yourself too, because that might be the last bite that you get, especially for a
Sure.
guy like him. So it could go either way. I think this, to be honest with you, I know a lot of people don't like to hear it. We've tried to prep them, I think, Alex, right, for the last couple of 3 weeks here, though. Don't be surprised if they resign Terrell Edmonds.
Right. Will D, why do we call the same behind the sticks throw to Najee on 3rd or 4th and 10? How is that play supposed to work? You may have talked about the plays early in the season. Those were disasters, obviously. Some maybe throws anticipating blitz. I will just say there's a lot of guff about throwing short of the sticks on 3rd down in the season. Uh, Defenses know where the sticks are. They're not allowing you to throw to the sticks. And so a lot of that's controlled by the defense. If it was so easy to throw it to the sticks, then you're playing against a really bad and poorly coached defense. So I think that point, while I get the frustration, is probably overstated. Next question comes from Faceless Man. Is Ebron essentially done in Pittsburgh? Gentry and Pat have really shined. I hope Najee is 100% for this game. I think if we run the ball successfully, we have a chance. I doubt Najee's 100% with the beating he's taken all year long. He probably didn't come into that game 100%, but the elbow injury is not going to go away probably in a couple of days. But yeah, I think Ebron's going to be done after this year pretty safely.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they bring Ebron back.
Matt Nerdy from a little bit ago says, "Hey Alex, hey Matt, good to hear from you. Appreciate you commenting on the YouTube videos. Let's see, what are the odds Juju plays from Alex Flores? It'd probably take a Super Bowl run to get in that conversation about Juju trying to come back, right?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously don't know the degree and all of it had to be pretty bad enough to have surgery, but of course it did happen much earlier in the year. You're gonna need a couple of weeks to ramp it up and that kind of thing there. I mean, I would be surprised if he came back even by the Super Bowl, to be honest with you.
Yeah, AZ.
That's a better question for Dr. Mel.
It is.
Tweet Dr. Mel at Girl Surgeon. She'll probably give you an honest answer on that.
AZ, can the Steelers mimic the Bengals plan and bomb the ball deep? They can, but it'll be like imitation crab. It won't be nearly as good. They don't. They got Burrow and Chase, man. That's not what Pittsburgh's working with. So they can try it, and I think they will throw up some vertical shots. But trying it and doing it, two different things.
What they mostly use as imitation crab, right?
I don't actually.
Whitefish.
Mm.
It's whitefish there, and I mean they've gotten it down there where it does taste. It's not exact, but it does taste a lot like it. If there's one thing, and it's really only one thing that I miss from living right there on the Gulf of Mexico, Pensacola, Florida, there is the fresh grouper and the fresh mullet. There.
Mm.
Now, obviously, the grouper's not as good as it used to be since the oil spill several years ago and all like that there. But man, you want to talk about two really good fish, southern delicacies. One being Gulf caught grouper, and the other being just pond mullet, like that. So that's two things that I miss.
There you go. Over 100 people in the chat. Appreciate you guys being here. Got some super chats to come in. That's probably the best way to get some of these questions and be sure that they'll be asked and answered by Dave. And I got one here from Russ Obenstein. Really good to hear from you, Russ. Hope you're doing well.
Are you a seafood eater or no?
I am. I live in Pittsburgh, so seafood is not exactly like you can get it on the water. But when I go down to Mobile in a couple of weeks, I'll definitely be getting some seafood,
Okay.
some crab and fish. Or not a big shrimp guy, but crab, lobster. Those things are my kind of speed.
You down that way, they'll probably have what's called a shrimp basket. I think that chain's still in that area down there. So if you find a shrimp basket, boy, they've got good grouper and they have some whitefish as well too. I think they're fried whitefish, so it's pretty good.
Super chat from Russ Obenstein. Good to hear from you. Hope you're doing well and feeling healthy, Russ. $5 super chat. Dave, Alex, and Depot staff. Thanks for best and most accurate content on any podcast. Thank you, Russ. Will TJ's playoff stats count on the sack record? No, it will not. Only to the regular season record. So there'll be postseason stats, of course, but they will not apply to the 22 and a half he has this season.
And shout out to the Depot staff, man. I don't know what I
Mm-hmm.
would do without them because I'm trying to slow down a little bit now. And Alex and Matthew Marksey and Josh Carney and Jonathan Heitritter and Owen and Dr. Mel and just go down the list of people. Daniel and uh, Spencer's been
Mm-hmm.
helping out a lot lately. So props to those guys, especially during games because man, it comes fast and furious after games there, and you ought to see. I mean, everybody should see the volume that these guys pump out. It's just absolutely a machine. So I'll give a props to the Depot crew as well.
For sure, great team, and we're grateful to have him. Also, by the way, I want to give a shout out to anyone who donated yesterday to the Feeding Northeast Florida fund we kind of put together. I don't know if this number is exclusively from my tweet. It probably isn't, but they responded back, said we raised over $3,000. Steelers Nation did yesterday to Feeding Northeast Florida. So really cool, really appreciative of that. Don Hull says he wants the Steelers DBs to chuck the Chiefs receivers and the words of Cower play physical. Hey, I get that for sure, but you miss against Tyreek Hill or Hardman, they're going to burn you. So you might want to play soft against them, but I get your point there. John Pennington says any players to watch for in the title game tonight. Jonathan Heitritter has a great article. I'll pull it up now that goes through some of the top and key prospects to watch. Jordan Davis, obviously the big guy, big nose tackle for Georgia, is the one guy to talk about. But yeah, this game is littered with prospects.
Absolutely. Jonathan's done a great job
Mm-hmm.
throughout the bowl season there. Don't even have to think twice about it. That stuff's ready. Been ready every morning there. And hopefully several of you listening to this get by the site or have been getting by the site and reading those articles. We're obviously close to draft season as well, too. And we'll be pumping out another 200 or so draft profiles, I'm sure.
Yeah, and Charlie's saying, Alex, are you scouting the games in Mobile? Yeah, I'll be down in Mobile with myself, Jonathan Heitritter, Tyler Wise, and Jacob Harrison. And we'll have a couple of people over at the Shrine game as well. So a lot of draft coverage, I promise, is coming your guys' way. Mark Leslie, $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Mark. I always said last year we'd go all the way. Guess I was a year out. What a story it would be. The final ride is 7. Thanks for all your work all year. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, you've been as optimistic of a Steelers fan as I've come across. And so hopefully this is the year. Maybe a very Jerome Bettis 2.0 ride off into the sunset with a ring, for Ben. But that's going to take a lot of doing for sure. But here's hoping. Next question, and Alan had a question about Tua. Is he still getting paid? Yes, he's on IR, so he is still getting paid. No change there. Let me try to find where the questions were when I last left off. Let me scroll up here just to make sure I'm not missing anything that catches my eye. Nathan Anderson, do you guys have any explanation for why the run game generally struggles, but sometimes, like against Cleveland, they seem to be able to run it well? I mentioned this prior to the Browns game, and Mike Tomlin's talked about it the last 2 weeks. I think knowing your opponent helps some. Knowing the guys and the schemes and the people rather than a team you don't play very often probably plays a role. But I don't have a great answer beyond that of why it's so mostly cold, but occasionally hot in terms of run defense and rushing offense. Any thoughts there, Dave, about the hot
Nah, I
and
mean,
coldness?
yeah, I don't know too much about the hot and coldness of it, the
Yeah.
aspect of why, right?
Micah does so saying with the 10th pick. Why am I reading this? With the 10th pick of the 2043 NFL draft, and I just lost where it was because a new chat came in. But he's basically making fun of the Trevor Cheedy Kazora thing. So thank you, Mike, for carrying that over. I can't escape it.
I,
Uh,
I, I would imagine that kid's going to be undersized.
yeah, he's got maybe a Baker Sam Howell thing. He won't even be that tall. I promise.
Yeah, probably 5'8" kid, huh? I don't
Yeah.
know.
He'll be playing lacrosse or chess. Probably playing
Nah,
chess.
get him on the golf course, man. Get him on the
That's a
golf
good one.
course.
Yeah. Muggsy Bogues. Muggsy Bogues could do it. He was 5'3", played in the NBA. This guy
Ma-
can too.
Make him left-handed too.
I'm left-handed, so hopefully it runs in the family.
There you go.
All right, let's get back to the questions here. K. Jackson, Pittsburgh. Shouldn't the offense design more routes to attack the middle of the field, opposing team's defense, maybe utilize the tight end more? Yeah, that's a discussion we've had for years now. Did a little bit more of it yesterday with McLeod's catches, but I don't think it's going to change dramatically from here until Sunday night.
There's not, look, their offense is what their offense is now. It's just a matter of executing better in certain, especially when it comes to the running game there, and doing maybe a little bit more stuff like Alex and I said, throwing out a couple more trick plays in there, pull some stuff out of the bag that maybe you worked on that you haven't shown just yet. But I think people are on the impression that you're able to change all this stuff. Now, they'll obviously be able to look at stuff that the Chiefs did versus certain personnel groupings and certain man coverages and those kind of things, and then hopefully make some adjustments on that. It's still kind of fresh, and the Chiefs, obviously, what they do defensively isn't going to be changed up. I mean, you are who you are usually at this point of the year, and it really comes down to maybe how much you can vary up maybe some formations to be able to run some of your same stuff out of maybe different looks to try to keep people opposing defenses or offenses guessing a little bit more. But you pretty much are the animal that you are at this point.
Yeah, well said. Can't make a lot of changes at this point. Let's see. Joker, I just saw a comment here. Joker Smoker, no, to its contract does not toll. And always late to the party. Thanks for listening to the Q&A. Appreciate you guys being here. Got more questions. We'll get to
the way the contract's told, just so everybody's clear, it's a final year of a deal, and from what I've seen in the past, it happens when a player is on PUP, and
Right.
obviously they start off on PUP at training camp on what's called the active PUP, and then they have to be on active PUP to start the season, to be able to start the season on reserve PUP. And if they sit out the entire season that way, and it being the final year of their contract, then that's when you get into a contract tolling type situation.
Yeah, if players' contracts told every time they were on IR, regardless, there'd be a lot of unhappy players. Free agency would not be much of a thing. So that's a good mechanism, and it's a pretty rare one to see. So a good clarification there. Bob Yeager, what are your final thoughts on McFarland? I didn't understand why he even made the team. Bob has talked about McFarland more than McFarland's probably talked about McFarland this year on my comments. Disappointing. 2 years. This year was super disappointing with the MCL tear and the COVID and being a healthy scratch. Can't get a helmet. So I mean, this guy, he may be in camp next year, but his odds not looking very good right now.
Look, him and Carlos Davis now at this point, two guys from your draft class that there was legitimate paths to be had, not crystal clear paths, but there was paths nonetheless for both McFarland and Carlos Davis to be able to get helmets against the Ravens, right? And they didn't get them. Now, obviously, McFarland's not being able to play special teams is a huge deterrent against him. But like Witherspoon, that guy did enough to be able to get himself on the field, and now they can't take his helmet away from him because of it. There, it is. And I tweeted this out before the game yesterday on, I think it was on what was it, Saturday night or Saturday during the day, that those are two guys to watch what happens on Sunday. If those two guys, Carlos Davis and Anthony McFarland Jr., could not get helmets on Sunday against the Ravens, man, that's a huge indictment if you ask me. Now, Davis is only a 7th round pick. The milk being spilled with him isn't as big of a deal, but you got a 4th round draft pick in McFarland. How many touches does he have to date, and how many offensive snaps does he have to date? Very, very, very low on. But what, 70? Is it 70 offensive touches maybe that he has to date? I put it up on my feed.
36 carries, I want to say, and probably about 45 to 50 touches off the top of my head. I think that's a number on him. It's not much, obviously.
I'm going to pull it up right now here. Let's see here. 4th rounder, 43 total touches and 108 offensive snaps so far.
Yeah, not a good return on investment with Harris being the guy. McFarland, very much bubble outside looking in, probably coming into next summer if he makes it that far. All right, next question comes from Faceless Man wants to trade for Jimmy G. I would not. I don't know how you feel about it. I would not. I would avoid Garoppolo. If you're enough,
I like Jimmy, but not at the cost of what if we're talking about guys coming in for 5 or 6 million, that's a lot different than these huge contracts and the
yeah,
draft capital. And then if you're going to give up draft capital like that, you're going to have to lock that quarterback up. And even these middle range quarterbacks now, are commanding 15, 16, 17 million dollars, at
yeah.
least, Jimmy's probably going to be in more demand than just that, so uh it would be interesting to see. I've always been a Garoppolo fan. I think a team can win with Garoppolo if they surround him with the right pieces there, but for what it would cost to kind of bring him in, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I mean, obviously he doesn't have the kind of the mobility either that you would think that Mike Tomlin claims that he might be looking for on top of it there. So I think it would be a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, I wouldn't trade for Garoppolo for 1/3 because of his play, 1/3 because of the contract, 1/3 because of the draft capital, and 1% because I don't want to spell Garoppolo because I cannot spell his last name. It's a huge check, can't do it. So that's my last 1% there. Daniel says, why does Canada put Ray Ray on the outside instead of the slot? Ray Ray's not effective on the outside. Nothing good happens. What do you think? I mean, he's basically a slot guy. He's played outside occasionally as guys rotate. You want to be static as an offense. You want different looks and different matchup you're trying to get. So guys will have to rotate and kind of play around. But McLeod has been predominantly a slot receiver this year.
Oh yeah, he is predominantly. I mean, and they do occasionally line him up outside, but it's. I haven't looked at the charting from yesterday. Have you looked at it yet?
I have not.
Is
No,
that back yet from Tom? I don't even know yet.
I don't believe the charting is in yet from Tom. He had his work cut out
Okay.
for him for once yesterday. A lot of plays
All
to
right.
chart. So good. I get mad about that. Fat Larry's in a position other than tight end and running back the Steelers should not draft in the top 3 rounds. I think D-line, they're going to be good. Again, it obviously partially depends on Tua Alualu, but D-line will not be a super high priority. Other than that, I mean, if you re-sign Edmonds, you're not going to draft a safety in the top 3 rounds. So I don't have a lot of things closed off, though, as we sit here today.
What was the bulk of the question there?
What positions would you not draft in the top 3 rounds? Is there anything off the table? He said tight end, running back as two of them.
Yeah, look, tight end, running back, you would think definitely off the table. Defensive tackle, those guys, and for a nose tackle type that you're not going to have on the field every snap. I wouldn't see as a high draft order need. Not saying that you couldn't draft one potentially later there in that, but man, this team's not going to be able to address all their holes via the draft anyway. So I think a wide receiver needs to be part of that. I think one that can stretch the field needs to be part of that as well too. But I think the listener is correct there that most definitely tight end and running back shouldn't be needed, and defensive tackle. I mean, if you do draft one, I don't think it would be in the top 2 or 3 rounds.
Yeah, agreed. Jonathan Mason, $5 super chat. How realistic is the comparison to the '05 team? I don't remember the feel around that team going into the playoffs. From a baseline kind of getting in their last seed standpoint, I mean, there's some comparisons there. Obviously, it's a much differently constructed team in terms of the '05 team was a run the ball control. This is supposed to be more of a passing offense, I guess. There's less of an identity offensively now than there was in '05. So I don't know. I mean, on a baseline level, there are similarities, but I'm not expecting the Cinderella run this time around.
No, it wasn't the defense is better too, man.
Yeah,
Much. I
like
don't.
top run defense that year, I think they had.
Yeah, most definitely. And also, look, I mean, we're talking now about 2005. Well, the game's really changed since then as well too. Back there, you worried about more about fullbacks and more heavier looks. A lot of heavier on both sides of the football. Where now it is more athletic and lighter,
Mm-hmm.
overall. So it's really hard to even compare 2005 season in general to 2021, if you ask me.
Yeah, Mike Adesso, some other people asking about Joe Haig and the percentage of snaps played. I don't have a final number on that. I believe yesterday took him over 25% on the season, which would you know, basically mean that Pittsburgh's not getting a fifth round comp pick.
Real quick, yesterday with Ray, 42 snaps out of the slot, 8 snaps wide.
Okay, so like we told Daniel, He's a slot guy. So yeah, Haig I think is over the limit. I'm pretty sure on that. Unfortunately,
Haig has played offensively.
I think PFR's stat is wrong. I don't know which one you're looking at, but I think PFR has it wrong.
304 snaps.
I know they had him at 31%, but I think that was for just in games in which he played. I had him at about 21% based on our charting coming into this game. I think he probably went over 25% because he played all 70 something snaps yesterday.
Well, I mean, what does? Hold on here. We'll look and see because we just had the update by Clayton this morning, right? And he's got the snap totals at the bottom year to date on that as well too.
Okay, I can pull it up here.
Haig is, where is Haig on this list?
I can pull it up here on the site.
Okay, I'm pulling it up too.
He's got total snaps. He's got Haig for. As we scroll on through. My
eyes. Oh, I'm saying he's up top there. 340 total snaps for the season is what he has.
And if we look at a core force
that probably includes a handful of special teams in there too. So
yeah. Again, I ran the numbers prior to the game. I'm almost positive he'll be over 25%. Is what I'm trying to get at here.
Okay.
A couple more questions we'll run through really rapid fire. The timeout by Staley. Yeah, weird one from James. That was a strange decision. I don't understand. Has Banner had more than 50 snaps this season? On offense, no, he has not.
Five, I think.
Yeah, whatever Clayton has here. It's a very low number. Definitely not 50. Hayden to the safety nickel. Maybe. I don't know if he can stay outside as he gets older. It's a thought. Maybe nickel, maybe safety would make sense. Austin's play calling. I'm not even sure how they divvied up the play calling duties, but is he the front runner to take over next year? Would not be surprised if Butler was gone. Austin was the DC. I still think Carl Dunbar maybe could be the guy, but it's one of those two guys.
Let's see. He got on here 32 total snaps in 2021, but I think some of those are special teams or kneel downs.
I think are special teams, kneel downs. Let's see. K-Duff, aside from the last game, don't we always seem to have the Chiefs' number? Only 2 games against Mahomes, they've lost both of those games, and the Chiefs have scored a ton of points in those games. So maybe in the pre-Mahomes era, but it doesn't matter what happened pre-Mahomes if you're facing Mahomes on Sunday.
4 inline snaps for Banner, 1 offensive line snap, 27 on field goal, extra point, and kick. So 27 of his 32 snaps on special teams. That means 5 offensive snaps at a rate of $4.5 million.
Yeah, and he did not start yesterday. They could have, in theory, put a core for at left tackle and Banner at right tackle. They chose not to do that. So that says, I know he was on COVID and all those things, but that says a lot. Eric, no, playoffs do not affect comp pick and snaps and all that. One last thing on there. Yeah, Jackson Mahomes is a character, to say the least. It's one word for it. And
2016 was the last time the Steelers played the Chiefs in the playoffs, and that was the last time the Steelers won in the playoffs too, right?
Yeah, the Boz 6 field goal game to beat Alex Smith. But this Chiefs team, a little different from 2016. And I think it's probably going to wrap things up here, guys. Let me scroll back down and see if there's any last-second questions that came in. Linderbaum, I like him kind of when I've watched very, very casually, but I have not done deep dive on him, but it'll be talked about a lot. I promise you that. Dupree comp pick's a good question. I think it's still going to be a 4th. I have not looked at his numbers over the last couple of weeks, but I think it's going to be a 4th.
What did he play much yesterday? Did you see any of that game?
Don't know. He was around 60% the 2 weeks prior in week 16 and 17. I don't think he was hitting the marker that Nick Cortez said he needed to hit to try to push that back in the 3rd round comp consideration.
He only played 34 snaps yesterday. Since he's been back starting in week 15, he's played 29, 38, 37, and 34 snaps. He's got a whopping 415 minus if you subtract the special team 17, he's got less than 400, just under 398 snaps, it looks like.
Yeah, should be a fourth round comp pick, probably when all is said and done. Last question, Garrett Johnson. What do you think about Vic Fangio for Steelers DC? Would I be against it? No, he's a good defensive minded coach, but why would he want to come to a team with a head coach that's already defensive minded with a ton of influence on this team? Go to a team with an offensive minded head coach and you can kind of control and run your defense. So I don't know what the allure of Pittsburgh would be to a guy like Vic Fangio.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds good in theory, but I just don't think it's going to happen.
And Frederick Miller says, Alex, give me a shout out. Love the channel. Hello, Frederick. Thank you for getting a question in. Why isn't Green playing? Well, he got hurt. He's been on COVID. He's not played well. Hassenauer's done well. So all those factors combined makes Hassenauer your starter the last two games and almost certainly will start Sunday's playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, thank you for being here. Really appreciate over 100 people for the majority of this chat. Thank you, guys. Tons of great questions, and just appreciate you guys hanging out with us every other week. Go enjoy the national title game, and we'll talk in 2 weeks and see if the Steelers are still playing. I mean, probably not, but who knows? Who the heck knows? And so it'll be fun to watch for sure. So, Dave, thank you for being here.
Thank you, and thank you for everybody for showing up. And we'll have a thread tonight, a game thread up on SteelersDepot.com. Invite everybody to come by and chat about the game while it's happening there. And peace and love to everybody. Have a great night.
And that game thread last night, 1,100 comments. You don't usually get 1,100 comments on a Sunday night game the Steelers are not playing in. And so that was just, I read back through some of the comments, and that was a whole lot of fun to watch. So thank you guys for being. There'll be an archive version of this Q&A session on YouTube and over on Steelers Depot in just a little bit. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you to everyone who donated a super chat. Really appreciate that. And we'll talk to you soon.